You've thought about writing a book for a long time. Why did you feel like this was the time to put it all in one place?
I realized what a very interesting life I was living. And I figured, you hopefully are going to be some old codger someday, sitting on your patio there in your rocking chair, and you might want to read through some of these journal. That's what I call it, a journal. And, kind of relive things, And so I started kind of keeping a journal. And it didn't turn to a book until, I guess after you were called on the scene. To get it all straightened out, I just... Page 90 here and page 3.
But was there something that triggered that it was time to, actually gather all this stuff up?
Well, yeah, I had in the last 3.5 years, I've had about 4 surgeries, and I tell you that'll make everything stop so you can just think about stuff. Chances are you might not be here tomorrow because they were going to take the largest organ in my body and pull it out and put another one in there. I mean, God, when a layman thinks about something like that, you think, hey, ain't no way. I mean, and that's small space, well, they have ways of getting around this small space. First, they cut all your ab muscles, so you wake up with a man-made beer gut. Yeah, I just had it fixed, by the way.
One piece at a time. And so how does it feel with it out in the world? Is it scary to reveal everything, talk about everything that's there in the book? I mean, it's one thing to sit around and do it or with your friends or over whatever. Once it goes out and people actually are seeing these sides and these thoughts, what does it feel like to release that out there?
Well, I mean, there's nothing in there that's like, there's no fealty pictures or anything, that I have to be ashamed of. And I was very careful in that I did not want to... I visioned at one time spending the rest of my life in court, So with that in mind, I went back and made sure I didn't slander anybody too bad.
Not just for any backlash or anything like that, but just for you to expose as much of yourself as you did. I mean, in general, you're a pretty private kind of a guy, and just to talk about your own feelings, your own experiences through all of this, and let the world in on all that. Is that a difficult process, difficult thing to let go?
Well, it's not like they're gonna take it away or anything like that. I mean, it's just some times that I lived that why not tell about it? And there's some stuff to be learned in there also. I mean, there's definitely stuff to be learned about not taking drugs and just about how important it is to tell the truth, especially to yourself, especially to yourself. Because I went to maybe 14, maybe 17 rehabs, I forget. And but only the last one that happened to be in my house. That's the only time I ever went to the rehab and didn't have that little spark. Yeah, man, we're going to dance for these people. We're going to stay sober about a year, then, go down, shoot a little pool, drink a little beer, hey. No, it doesn't work like that. I just, the last time I went and hired me a male nurse to come into my house, I think my wife just took off. I think I saw her taillights. I don't know. I don't remember much of it. It was good that she left, I imagine. Because, I mean, I remember that it was very uncomfortable. Because I quit cigarettes, cocaine, heroin, alcohol. Never got much into psychedelics.
But this
all
was
this at once.
But the difference was that you wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, the little voice wasn't back there. It felt so different, and it felt so real, and it just it was like being reborn.
So did going through and thinking about and reliving all this history, does it make you think about your legacy, the legacy of the band, the achievements of the band? Does it give you a different perspective when you string the whole thing together like that?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of takes a pattern, and I don't know. Let's talk about some happy stuff.
That should be the accomplishments of the band should be some happy stuff, by the way.
Well, yes. Absolutely.
Because we're in LA, something that was interesting for me when we were talking about it was early days, Hourglass days, when you first came out to LA. Tell me about, this city and the scene then, and, playing with the Doors in the Springfield and trying to get it together out here at that time, what it was like.
It looked nothing like it looks now. You could go far enough down Sunset where you would actually hit some dirt roads. Yes, just a few smattering dirt roads left over. And, there weren't near as many people. Like when you fly on the plane, you didn't think it was a whole new nation that you were coming into. Instead, it was just, regular sized town. And it was, of course, it was like 67, 68. And I mean, it was just hippies everywhere. Some clothed, some not. Free love. Some of them are still paying for that. Oops. But as far as the music business, we don't want to go into what kind of shape the music business was in back then. They could take your socks if they wanted them. And if you did something against the label that they didn't like, they could freeze you on that label for 7 years. Everything was cross-collateralized, meaning that they take your writer's royalties, they take everything until they get paid back, and then you start getting paid. Of course, all this time that you've been there and recording and all this stuff, they keep issuing you all this dough, right? Apartment and all this, and I mean, we were in debt up to here. And I guess when we all it just kind of hit us one day that we all looked like a bunch of jackasses. And these people had really, really pulled it over on us, And so then they said, well, y'all can all go. We won't freeze you on this record label if he'll stay, pointing to me, and work with the studio band. Oh, God. Well, the The producer was an ex-shoe salesman from Miami. He was a hell of a shoe salesman, too. Oh, God. He was trying to do it digitally before it was digital stuff.
It's a visionary.
He was trying to take, if you get one good verse, he'd stack them, Of course, they wouldn't be, they wouldn't be the right space. So, you'd get a ding, ding, ding. Oh, it was fun and games. And some of the material, oh, God. For fear of somebody maybe looking it up and finding it. I'm not going to tell you any of the names of the stuff, but it was just atrocious. And so my brother called me on March 26, 1969. And he said, "Come on, man." And
there's a rebirth right there.
I'm telling you.
But there was one thing, at least, that came out of it. It was out here that your brother first started to play a slide guitar, right?
That's right, right before we split up. My brother was a triple Scorpio, and if he had a cold, he's the only person in the world that ever had a bad cold. And he would make everybody around him sick before it was all over. And let me see, I had taken, they wouldn't let us play either, this label. So we'd get further and deeper in debt, right? So I told him, I said, "Man, why don't you sit around all the time? Let's go do something." I had been out to this place where they used to, it's out in Topanga Canyon, and it's where they used to film cowboy shows, right? And they had a big stable out there, and it had pretty nice quarter horses there. And but the stable was here on this hill, and you had to come down here and cross this road, this paved road. And then here it was out, it's where the big slanted rocks are. I'm sure you've seen it in the chase scene.
Lone Ranger.
Hit them off at the pass, Roy. Right. Anyway, I was going to try to get him into some of that activity, because he was really getting bummed out about the whole situation. And I think he had Muscle Shoals on the line saying, "Come on back down south, where you belong." And I can see how, a job in the studio would look pretty good after doing what we were doing for so long. So anyway, it wasn't his birthday, it was real cold, and I remember that. And anyway, he had this, oh yes, I told him, I said, "When you come down here on the horse, and you go across this paved road, hold the horse real good. Don't jerk him or snatch him anywhere, because he has shoes on, or he's shod." He says, "What's that?" I said, "He's got his shoes on, and they're metal and asphalt do not mix. He will fall and hurt both of you." Well, guess what happened? Yes, sir. Oh, horse just, and he landed right here on his elbow. And, ow. He couldn't play. You knew whose fault it wasn't.
The guilty party.
Right. You'll be drawn and quartered at dawn. So he wouldn't let me in his house, near him, anything. And I mean, he was big brother. I mean, I felt really terrible about the whole thing. And but I didn't want to lead the horse across the road, you know, my brother on it, yeah. Right. Anyhow, so maybe it was his birthday. Yeah, November 20th. And I went out and bought him 2 presents. I bought him the first Taj Mahal record with Jesse Ed Davis on it, playing slide. And I bought him a bottle of these red pills that said Chlorcidin on them. And weird how stuff happens in there. And so I went and knocked on his door and, you know, put the pills in there. And the record down and ran, you know. About 2.5 hours later, my phone is just ringing off. And I pick it up. And he said, "Little bro, you got to get over here right now." So I said, sure. So I went over there and he said, "Well, after you left," he said, "I figured if I pour all them pills out and wash that damn label off the bottle," and he had a sling around his arm. I took him to the doctor and all that, right? I mean, what do you want? So he says, "Watch this." And he's already on it, man. I mean, he's already blistering that thing, you know. And I thought, yow, I've opened up another can of worms here.
But that was it. Couple hours, one day, no warning, and picked it up like that.
Man, I mean, and the next time I saw him was like somewhere between 11 and 13 months later. And, he was just, he was still a little wild, you know. And eventually, long story short, the Chlorcidin company sent him 10,000 bottles without labels or pills.
So you talked about getting the call to then go back across the country and join up with what your brother had put together. But it was, you know, you were a little skeptical as he described what this band was that he was pulling together.
Well, yeah, who ever heard of a band with 2 drummers? I thought train wreck, you know. And then he said, "I have 2," and he said, "Oh, I got a fantastic lead guitar player." And I said, "Well, what in the hell do you do?" Seems I remember pretty clearly that you were pretty much the guitar player in the band. He said, "Oh, I'll show you what I do," because he was playing slide, you know. And when you get here, and I'm just getting ready to hang up, and he says, wait. I said, "What? What is it?" And he said, "I need you to play a Hammond organ." I said, "Wait a minute now. Hold on." Because, I mean, back in those days, back when they used to make Hammond organs, the going rule was, don't touch my wife, don't ride my Harley, and don't mess with my Hammond. So how could you even sit behind one, you know, when you're my age? And, you know, this is the ones I have are 1969s. I have 6 of them, and one of them's a 71. But they have the same guts. Sometimes we'll have to go to the Hall of Fame and say, "Excuse us, we need to borrow your Hammond for about an hour." And we change the guts out. And it's back. It looks the same.
That's where you find it.
They always sound brand new. And anyway, where was I?
He called you out and said, 2 drummers. 2 guitar players, and that's what you're going to play.
Yeah, and he said, Hammond. And when I got there, first of all was the day of, well, what tunes you got? I don't know what he told those boys before I got there, but I mean, it's like, hey, man, he'll come here. Hey, he writes better than Paul Simon. Don't tell him what he filled him up with. And I never did find out. Anyway, I started showing them these tunes, right? And they'd go, what else you got, man? Got another one, I'm starting to sweat bullets, man. And so I whipped dreams on them. And they learned it right there on the spot, and it's the same way you hear it today. That was just, and man, I belonged. I belonged to them, yes, sir. And it was a good feeling, man. It was great.
I'm always real curious about band chemistry. I think you say in the book, you can have a bunch of great players, and if the drummer's not right, then everybody's driving a truck,
Oh, yeah.
That there's something that has to happen that brings all the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about, especially with everybody in those first days, what was that mixing? What was that chemistry that made that happen?
Well, I'm not going to tell you it wasn't scary. And I was trying to suss these guys out. There were so many of them, And they were all so different, especially the black guy. That's the strongest man I've met to date. Strangest man I've met to date. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Anyway, he kept listening to this Roland Kirk guy. Oh, man, that's something else. And he put on Miles Davis. Boy, that would put me right to sleep. I loved that, And then he turned me on to jazz, And I'm sure some of it rubbed off into the songs or into the arrangements of some of the songs. And of course, I came from pretty much dyed-in-the-wool rhythm and blues, and my brother was rhythm and blues and also country blues, because since he learned to play slide, he'd been getting into some old country blues like Big Bill Brunsey and Son House, just all that, like Texas blues and Chicago blues and Delta blues. All in different kinds, be the acoustic. I mean, he just got into the blues. Even turned me on to quite a bit of it. And so I'm fine. I'm getting all these different kinds of, we just start playing sometimes, and it would just go on. Well, we had these little mushrooms. They were organic, It was, these guys came up from the University of Florida, and they had one of these bags like bread comes in, It was full, man. It was about to tear. And he said, y'all work on these. I'll bring you some more later. Oh, I didn't know what it was from Adam's House Cat, So it got to be that we'd get up in the morning, take one of those mushrooms, start playing. Next thing you know, it's time to stop and eat something. And back then, I think we had one and a half meals a day.
All you had time.
Right. We had a $3 per diem. Oh, God. And anyhow, we, yeah, if you like drank a beer, well, forget it, you know. You're going to drink today, you're going to eat today. What's it going to be? And so we did this for like 6 months. And right in the midst of it, I got on this real, like probably the heaviest writing role that I've ever been on. And I wrote the first album, all of it that isn't instrumental. I guess within a week. I mean, they just started flying. I was real happy. I was real content. And finally, I guess I'd been there about a year, and I said, "Oh, there's one I forgot to show you." And I showed Melissa. I wrote that when I was 17. But I had so many, I'd take them to my brother and say, "Well, what about this?" And he'd go, "No, man, no." Or he'd go, "Well, what you've done is," like with this one night, I had it. I knew I had it. No more playing other people's songs. Hey, I took it to him, all jazzed up. How about this? And he got through playing, and he says, "Man, I don't know how to explain this to you, but just straightforward. What you've done here is you've written a different set of words over an old obscure album cut off the second Stones record." Oh, man. And then he started singing the other words. I'm like, oh, no. All that work. Oh, man.
It was interesting to me when we were talking about the Fillmore East record that, you kind of talk about that like, that was a good gig, but not like, for so many of us, that's the moment. That's the seeing Rolling Stone put that as one of the 50 best albums of all time and all that. But, how much was that just representative of that was what a night at the Fillmore sounded like? It's not like that was some one super magic day.
No. The last night of Fillmore, the very last one, everybody was so worn out from the night before because we started playing at like 3 and stopped at 7:30. And you can even hear on the tape, my brother gets up to the mic and he says, "Boy, y'all mighty quiet in here." Of course, nobody said nothing. We never could get those people cranked back up, But the night before and the night before, oh, look out. But then every time we went there, it was like the Beacon. It was the other generation, It's just like the Beacon has become just totally synonymous with the Fillmore. Too bad we don't have one out in San Francisco. Right?
And just to give him the respect and the credit, you speak so frequently and so fondly of Bill Graham.
The Sultan of Rock and Roll, as Keith Richards named it. Yes, he was such a fair man, Because like in the Fillmore, the way they had it was, you had the big high stage, right? It was a big spiral staircase. If you ever tried to go up a spiral staircase with a big Fender bass, it's a trick, a real trick. Anyway, if you were the headlining act, you were on the ground floor. If you were let's take it on the other side. If you were the first opening act, You were on the 4th floor. No elevator in the Fillmore. Never. You were the second opening act, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so we jumped from like the 4th floor to the 2nd. And well, it took a little while, but we did it. And that was such a great place. There for a while, we were just going back and forth, Fillmore West, Fillmore East, and, doing all that. And like at first we had like 2 vans and a truck. And later on we got like one of those campers. And that thing, we were too much for it. It just kind of little blue smoke came out of it and died one day.
I know we're going to go soon to some questions. I want to just get a couple of things on the more recent band for the fans who know the more recent band. I love hearing the story of your first exposure to Derek.
The first time I played with him, he was 9 years old. I mean, we stood him up, and the guitar was here. And there he was. He wasn't as tall as that SG Standard Gibson that he plays. We were in Miami. We were cutting, I'll tell you exactly when it was. I think it could have been 1979. We were cutting in Light and Robes, that record. No, sorry. Ooh. God, Derek would be 70 years old. No, we were with Tommy Dowd there at Criteria Studios in Miami, cutting Shades of Two Worlds, something like that. Anyhow, we had a night off coming up, and Butchie goes around and gets me and Haynes and Alan Woody and himself. He says, y'all, let's go out tonight. I want to show you something that you'll really dig. And we said, okay. So we all went, we were going to South Beach, right? None of us minded that. And so we get down there and we're walking up to this nightclub. It's one of those like hole-in-the-wall nightclubs. Give you an idea about the nightclub. The bar was like here, and here's all the bottles. Behind the bottles is the stage, and you stand there and play, You knock over a bottle, and you paid for it. Anything to keep your pay. Yes. I noticed that there was these 2 kids throwing this baseball back and forth, and didn't really pay it any mind. I figured they're locals around there someplace. So we get in there, and this same kid that was outside gets up on the damn stage. And I'm thinking, oh, man. And he still hadn't said anything to us at all until he played a song, right? And, oh, wait a minute. He went ahead and asked him if we could jam. He said, guys, let's go up and jam. And so he came up there with us, Derek did. And man, I guess we started in with something like Statesboro Blues, and he just burned that thing. Looking around here, and Haynes is saying, okay, man, Let's get him off the stage, and then we'll play a couple more. Play some Allman Brothers tunes, you know. And so we're getting a little warm in here for you, buddy? I loved it. Only time I've ever seen Mr. Haynes squirm like good professional ass whippings. It's a good thing.
9-year-old put you in your place like that.
Whatever it takes.
For all the changes, configurations, breakups, comebacks, players in, players out, you're up there now with a band that's been together for a good long time.
Right.
Probably the longest run that, one organization has stayed together. You still look over and, got those same 2 drummers up there behind you.
Got the train ready.
What, again, to come back to that chemistry, what is it about this Allman Brothers band that has hung on and dug in as deep as you have?
I don't know really how to answer that, except that I guess just by fate. We've always picked guys that have that something. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's that hungry look. I don't want to sound real cheesy here at all, or it's that want to. It's like, you can see it in their eyes, man. It's like if I don't play pretty soon, I'm gonna jump out of my skin. And it's, of course, not like that, but I mean, it's like, I'd be more pleasant if I was playing,
And that's still true for everybody down the line.
Everybody. And it is so disheartening to see another band. I'm not going to mention any names, but they'll get up there and they'll play the same songs in the same order. And, like, it's just like, it's your cue to say that, and, good night. I mean, man, every night, same. I mean, that would drive me up the wall. That's a job,
Did this so you didn't have to have a job.
No, gosh, no. Want no job.
I got to ask you because I haven't seen you since, and I guess you did do it in Florida. At some of the Beacon shows, talk about mixing up sets. You were singing Neil Young's "Needle and the Damage Done," which
Good
was
song.
an amazing thing to hear. Why does either generally how does something like that bubble up into a list, or more specifically why that song do you pull off the shelf and start to bring into a show?
Me and Haynes, or me or Haynes, Haynes or I, one of us. I'll get it here in a minute. One of us usually comes up with the obscure stuff, And like Warren Haynes knows every song that's ever been written, I believe, and knows, I mean, I think our repertoire is up to like 2,000. I mean, it actually is up to about 300. And, I mean, some of them are just, you wouldn't think that a song like that would fit with the Allman Brothers, But it really does, because there's like many different facets of the Allman Brothers, I mean, we play love songs just as well as get down, get dirty. We got a question?
Last thing, and then we go to question. Since you've been out, signing books and shaking hands and kissing babies out here, What have you learned about your fans, about Allman Brothers fans, as you get out and have gone face to face with so many of them these last 10 days or so?
They are no bullshit. They really care, and they've hung with us for so long. And I used to think, well, I wonder if it's the thing to do, or, you know, no, it's all real. And it feels so good, you know, it really does.
Do you ever go back to Juliet, Georgia, to the river?
Can't say as I have, no.
I saw you in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was 7 years old, play at Chastain Park. And your song, Melissa, really just had a big influence on my music as well. My question to you is, what was the last song that you and Dwayne wrote together?
My brother didn't write a whole bunch. He wrote Little Martha, the instrumental. I think he wrote it about his girlfriend or something. The last one we put together, I guess, wow, that's a good one. I think the last one we put together, we were trying to build up the repertoire for the Fillmore, you know. So it was probably something like Trouble No More, or God, that's an impossible question, man.
Y'all have been a huge part of the soundtrack of my life for almost 50 years. How does that feel to have that effect and to be that part of so many millions of people's lives?
Well, yeah, I guess they've got a piece of me too. I don't know.
Is it something that you're aware of? Or is there a point when you become aware, you know, we've been doing this long enough and gotten big enough and reached a place where, you know, we really are having a serious impact out there?
It's wonderful. I mean, it's like the end-all, be-all dream.
I'm a Nashville girl, and I'm wondering if you could share with us a great Nashville memory.
Nashville? Let me see. I learned a lot of lessons in Nashville. I hit my first and last woman in Nashville.
Good memory. To be clear, this is age 9 or 10?
I was in the 5th grade. And I had just come from military school in the 3rd and 4th grade, right? So I had this favorite cowboy shirt. It was black. And I've always, like if I would go to school and I have on this shirt my mother got me, if somebody was walking down the hall and I saw this shirt and they had it on, I would conveniently lose that shirt. I got in more trouble. I'm telling you, I get more ass whippings. So I really like stuff that was one of a kind. I still do. And so anyway, it was the 5th grade. I don't know. I was still kind of confused about soft boys, girls, you know. I ain't quite caught it yet. Anyway, I was sitting in like homeroom class. God, I'll never forget this. And I kept feeling something touching my back. And I felt back there. And you know those little white things that if you pull out your notebook paper and you want to put it back in there, you got these little things that stick on to heal up the holes, you know what I mean? Okay. She was sticking those on my back. The girl was flirting with me, okay? Duh. I turned around. I watched for the teacher to turn away because, I mean, I just come from 2 years of military school. I knew all about these, how to get away with stuff, you know. So I turned around. I just said real softly, I said, if you stick another one of those damn things on my shirt, I'm going to turn around and knock hell out of you. Oh, well, her face got all pink. Let me tell you, she couldn't wait. She couldn't wait to stick another one on there. And I watched the teacher, and I watched. Bap! I backhanded her, man, I got her good. I mean, her head was ringing. Oh. So I put it out of my mind, you know. So I'm going the bell rung, and me and a couple of buddies of mine are walking out to the bike rack. And this one little guy, we called him Speedy even, he always was running up ahead. And he came back and he says, man, the strangest thing. He says, Gregg, all your spokes are kicked out of your bicycle. And all of ours are fine, you know. And I thought, I wonder what that could be. About that time, here was the corner of the building. And I was walking this way, and she was laying dead right there at the corner. About the time I said, I wonder what, God, bang, right in the temple. And I mean, she used all she had. And all I saw was petticoats and patent leather shoes dancing on my face. And you know, your partners, if they see you getting beat up by a woman, they'll just, right. You know, they ain't gonna jump in and help you, you know. Embarrassed. Then I gotta walk my bike home. Everybody leaves, and it starts raining. So I get home, and I'm just a wreck. So that was my last entanglement with a female.
I have a question about your lyric writing. As I've been listening to the early, particularly the first album, and struck with the depth in Dreams and Not My Cross to Bear, when you play those songs now, what do you think about the young man who wrote those songs?
I don't really think about writing a song when I play it, you know. I mean, it's been written, you know. You can drive yourself crazy writing and rewriting around, you know. And cluttering up a song, that's real easy. If you need any songs cluttered up, bring them to me. You're a rookie every time you write a song. That's the great part of it. It's just as challenging. You're just as lost. No, the inspiration comes in and just kind of takes over. But I think about how to make the song better. But that all happens like before the song. And during the song, I guess you just kind of keep tweaking it, you know. Sometimes it means taking something out of it that you did before. I mean, there's so many singers out there now that just sing I mean, they sing like they're getting paid by the note. You know?
One thing that was interesting to hear from you is that you really were not only not a born singer, but kind of resisted moving into the singing chair and really had to learn how to do it and what that was about.
Oh, yeah.
You took over. You started singing more to keep the job than to because you wanted to.
I had started the band, and my brother comes to me and he said, "Man, you're going to have to learn how to sing or you might be having to hit the bricks." And then I said, "Wait just a minute here. You gonna throw me out of my own band? Now, what did you need done?" No. I happened to have a tape. There was always the guy that was in the audio-visual class at school, we didn't call them geeks back then. Anyway, he had one of the first portable good recorders, Ampex recorder. Came in like a suitcase. They're like priceless now, but it's really good quality. I think there's like 4 heads on it. And anyway, he come out to this club in Martinique that me and my brother used to play at. And he recorded it. And he sent it to me, I guess, about 8 months ago. Oh, no. Oh, no, you'll never hear it. No, no. Oh, it's atrocious. I mean, first of all, I got this real heavy Southern accent. And, it's like, I don't know. It's like Hank Williams sings James Brown. I don't know, but I kept at it and kept at it. I mean, it's only been about 5 years, really, that I've realized that I do have have the kind of voice that when you hear it, you know who it is. That's a hard thing That's a hard thing for the singer to hear. I don't know, it might be different with other singers, but, like when I sing, usually it sounds like, I can name you off 3 different artists. Like right in here, we got a little Bob Seger, and in here we got a little Ray. And, I know where it all kind of came from. And it's just fathers and sons, We learned from the old guys. Our kids will be learning from us, learning something.
And our last question.
Since we're in Hollywood, I'd like to ask you about Rush, where you played an evil drug dealer. What kind of typecasting was that?
Who said it was typecasting? How many other drug movies have you seen me in?
Alan, thank you very much. Thank you, Gregg Allman.
All right.